Hi everyone, welcome to Duo 3. In this session, we'll be recording our first macro to help us automate this one single process where we'll need to be performing on a monthly basis. So without further ado, let me jump straight into the data itself. So having extracted the data from the ERP system, these are the data which we will be getting. However, on a monthly basis, our report, we are expected to also look into the margins as well as the margin percentages of each individual department. So we'll be recording a VBA to help us perform these repeated actions. So example over here, we will be having the margin, right, margin column, as well as the margin percentage, right. We'll be having this in bold. So for the margin, we'll be having a formula which is the sales less of the cost of goods sold, right, and the margin will be the margin over the sales, right. So over here we'll need to apply it a percentage for this particular column, and we'll copy the formula down to row number 6, right. This will be roughly what we'll be doing a recording later in our macro. So let me undo this, right. So once how do we go about recording the macro? We will first select the developers tab and click on record macro. So for a macro, right, we'll need to assign it a name. So let's call this monthly report. Ideally, in the macro's name, you will try to avoid having space in between, and we can also give it a description. So adding margin and margin percentage, right. And we can also assign it a shortcut key. So we'll hit on Shift A. So you can see when we hit on Control Shift A, we will be calling this particular macro up after we have finished recording it, right? So before hitting on OK, I'd like to remind everybody that when you're recording a macro, if so happen that you hit an unintended move, right, you'll also be recorded in the macro itself. And do not hit on undo, because it will also record the undo action as well. So how to overcome having errors within your recorded macro? My suggestion would be to write down the individual steps that you are intending to do, and it will definitely help reduce the error ratio or the number of times you have to repeat recording your macro all over again, right? So without further ado, let me click on OK, and we'll start recording the macro. So firstly, we'll select on E1 and we'll key in margin, right? And go to F1 and we'll click on key in margin percentage, right? We'll select both these cells and we'll bold it, right? We'll go to cell E2 and we'll type in the formula, which is the sales less of the cost of goods sold, right. Enter, and we'll go to F2, select the margin and divide it over the sales, right. And then we will format F2 to be a percentage, and we'll drag it down across to row number 6. And if you notice over here, our numbers do not have the 1000 denomination, which is the comma, right? So we can also highlight this entire range from cell C2 to cell E6, and we'll hit on the comma style, right, to have the separator to show to allow better readability of the sales figures and the margin figures and the cost of goods figures, right? And then we can stop recording the macro. So there are multiple ways to stop recording a macro. One would be to go to the developers ribbon and click on stop recording, or we can have apply the stop button over here as well. So we'll stop recording, and now we can test the macro out, right? So how to go about testing the macro would be to delete this entire portion, right, and revert this portion as well, right, to general. Okay, then if you recall, just now we have assigned the shortcut key Control Shift A to the macro. So if we hit on Control Shift A, we can expect the report to come out with the margins as well as the various formattings. So let's try that. Wow, that's pretty amazing, right? I mean, if you look at it, how long did it take us to do the entire thing just now? It was probably like a minute or two, and now it reduced it to just a few seconds. So imagine if you have multiple reports or multiple lines, you can just apply your macro to them. So over here in the new report, we can just hit on Control Shift A as well, and wow, you see how quickly this can change how fast you generate reports on a month-to-month basis or even on a day-to-day basis. So we'll try to understand what we have done here in the subsequent session, where we'll go into the VBA environment to understand the coding. But that's all I have for this session, and I'll share more in the subsequent sessions with you guys. So thanks for watching.